Horses Now podcast, your go-to source for all things horse racing and training. I'm your host, Teague Ridge, and I'm joined by the one and only Kenny McPeek. All right, Kenny, the news is out. Thorpedo Anna will run in the Travers. Wow, what was behind that decision?
One of the more interesting decisions I've ever made in my training career. I think I look back when I was young, I was able to watch horses like Genuine Risk win the Kentucky Derby, winning colors.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I won the Preakness with Swiss Skydiver back in 2020.
Okay.
And then, before that, even Rachel Alexander won the Preakness. So there's been some really great fillies that have beaten 3-year-old colts in their career. And I think it's all about timing. I've got a filly here that's proven to be very special. It's not like it's on the whim. She's won 3 grade ones this year, and she really needs more challenged. She hasn't the rider hasn't even reached back and touched her with a crop this year, and I think she's perfectly capable of winning the Travers, and it hasn't been done in 109 years. So, in the name of sportsmanship, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be really good for the game.
So, has Torpedo Anna worked with any of the boys? Has she worked with Mystic Dan at all? Has she ran with any of her stable mates to where you kind of get an idea? Yeah, she can compete.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she worked with Mystic Dan all winter long down there at Fairgrounds, and she gave him everything he could handle. I mean, he'd come back huffing and puffing. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you, she contributed to getting him ready to win the Derby.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. No, she gives him everything he can handle and more. And I've also worked her against a horse named Gould's Gold, who was second in the Ohio Derby recently, and she's just a better horse than Gould's Gold. And so I know she's in the realm of the 3-year-old colts. The good news is that we get 5-pound weight allowance as a filly,
okay,
which is great. And the Alabama we would be pursuing what could have been my 3rd Alabama, which I'm really proud of.
Right.
Having won it a couple of times, I'm not going to say been there, done that so much as, it's a race I've won, but I'd really like to win another Travers, and I think she's a filly that could pull it off.
Well, there's a purse difference there too, right?
$650,000 purse difference. So, yeah, and a little. My wife says it's discriminatory that the fillies only run for 600, but the colts run for $1.2 million too.
Right.
And so we're going to give her a shot at all that. As racing goes, you make a percentage of the purse. She would make nearly as much to run second in the Travers as she would have to win the Alabama. Not quite as much, but it's coming close to that. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited about the whole thing.
Kenny, what role does the jockey Brian Hernandez play in all this?
Well, for me, he brings continuity. I mean, Brian's a consummate professional. He's a guy that you can completely depend upon. I've had an enormous amount of success riding Brian. I don't tend to get enamored with the quote unquote big name jockeys.
Right.
I prefer consistency and somebody that really wants to be in our barn. And Brian and his agent Frank Bernice have been a stable part of our stable, no pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
And they help with the decisions. And Brian knows the horses, and I think all that's really important.
Now, there's all kinds of articles that keep saying that Brian has not laid a whip to Torpedo Anna yet. Is that true?
Hasn't touched her. He's flagged her a couple times in the last race, but we really haven't seen her best race yet. Something that a lot of people don't realize is you can analyze a race on a list of different types of past performances. They've got what they call the DRF past performances or daily racing form. A lot of people use the Beyer figure, which I'm not a big Beyer figure fan. I think the Beyer figure can be a little bit out of balance every now and then. You've got Equibase speed ratings. You've got Thorograph, and you also have Ragozin. So all these are different ways to analyze the possibles or the probable starters in a race like this. And when you analyze those numbers, Thorpedo Anna fits with the best 3-year-old colts in America. So I think knowing that going in, that we really on paper fit, and of course we all know it's a horse race, then a lot can happen. But on paper, she's fast enough, and we're going to have to prove it in the afternoon, and it'll be a difficult challenge. But once again, it's a really exciting, interesting thing that we can bring to sport. Can the filly beat the colts?
What would you say to the doubters that say her pedigree doesn't translate to 10 furlongs?
Oh, well, I don't think there's any problem with her pedigree. I mean, actually, her pedigree translates into 10 furlongs easy. She's by a son of Medaglia d'Oro. Medaglia d'Oro won the Travers himself, and he was also out second in the Belmont, a race I actually won with Sarava. And then his daughter, Rachel Alexandra, was a filly that handled the distance of ground too. She won the Preakness and also came back and won the Whitney. So there's plenty of stamina in the pedigree. And then Uncle Mo on the bottom line supplies the speed, and she's proven to be ultra talented. Talent's what gets them there.
So the doubters also say that the pressure and the atmosphere will be too much for her. Now, does that matter to a horse in a horse race?
No, nonsense. We need to do what I'd call some details with her between now and race day, August 24th. We've been gate schooling her one day a week because she needs to be calm in the gate. She got a little antsy in her last start at the coaching club, and she broke bad. And one misstep's going to be maybe the difference in winning and losing. The other thing we need to work on is that she tends to be a little bit wound up and kind of a little bit high strung. And when we take her to the paddock, we kind of expect her to get a little bit nervous. And I think it's good nervous energy for her. But then once you put the saddle on her back, she calms down.
Interesting.
And so, yeah. And so in that case, we are going to paddock school her every Sunday. Her routine's pretty simple going into the Travers. She's going to gate school every Wednesday. Well, she gallops Monday, Tuesday, 5:30. She gallops 6:30 on Wednesday. Gate schools at the end of that gallop. Thursday, Friday, gallop. Saturday, she's going to have a workout, and she'll have a Saturday routine going into this, assuming the weather's cooperative and the racetrack's not sloppy. And then Sunday, she paddock schools mid-afternoon on Sundays. And so that's pretty much every week going into this. And I think that gives us an opportunity to really have her as good as she's ever been.
What does gate schooling look like?
You walk over there, you basically stand, they close doors, they might put a man, what they call an assistant starter, up inside, and then they'll leave a horse in there for a minute, 2 minutes, and then back them out. And then that's just simply nothing more than getting a horse to learn to relax in there. Like I said, she tends to be a little bit of I've used the analogy. She's a bit of a banjo string. She's wound up pretty tight.
Right.
And when you've got her in there, you've got to be careful that she doesn't pop too soon. But when she pops, she goes right on at it. And that's just something she just needs to practice a little bit.
Gotcha. So you mentioned a sloppy track. How does weather play in this for Torpedo Anna? So if let's say there is a lot of rain and it's sloppy, does that change her chances? Does that help hurt?
I think it probably helps her. Her one of her best races of the year was the Kentucky Oaks, and it was pure slop that day. She handled all that adversity, and she has really natural speed. Yeah, natural speed, and the slop kind of helps because then you've got more positioning. You're not going to take as much mud in the face, and I think that does help her cause her chances.
What's the track surface look like for the Travers?
Way too early. You could get a rainstorm within a few hours before the race is going to change the surface. The morning of, usually if weather's cleared by the morning of, you'll get a fast track. The track man here in New York is a guy named Glenn Kozak. Glenn is fantastic at getting his surfaces prepared because storms this time of year are pretty normal coming through in and out upstate New York. Yesterday we had 3 or 4 rainstorms yesterday afternoon. a lot of humidity, so it's very unpredictable sometimes.
So you did win the 2020 Preakness Stakes with Swiss Skydiver. Obviously, that was a filly, ran against the Colts. Talk to me a little bit about that. What went into that decision before putting her into the Preakness?
Great question. So because that was the COVID year, we had kind of a series of events that were a little unusual. They had to rearrange the stakes schedule that year. The Derby and the Preakness, which historically are run in May, ended up being pushed to later in the year. The Derby, I want to say, was in September, and the Preakness was October.
Okay.
And one of the things that I noticed was that, well, one, they had cut the entry fee cost in half for the Triple Crown nominations. And I had encouraged Peter Callahan, the owner of Swiss, to nominate her. And he said, "Oh, you're crazy." I said, "Well, the way I'm looking at it is that there's no 3-year-old filly stake in October, and I might need a place to run her. And instead of running her against the fillies or older fillies, we could run her against straight 3-year-old colts."
Yep.
And he said, "Oh, it's a waste of money, but go ahead and do it."
Okay.
So I got lucky that he let me do that. Then as the season went on, I ran her against the colts in the Bluegrass, and she was second to a horse named Art Collector, a very nice horse. She ran a huge race. And then as the season went, she runs second in the Kentucky Oaks in September. And I had to decide whether I was going to go straight 3-year-old colts or older fillies.
Right.
And I could have run her in the Spinster, but I chose to run her against the colts because she got a weight allowance and she was doing good. And once again, I thought it was historic, and sure enough, she pulled it off. Anybody that wants to see a really cool video, go on YouTube and Google Secretariat versus Swiss Skydiver.
Okay.
Or it might even be in their transverse, Swiss Skydiver versus Secretariat. And there's a video that holds the two races together when they leave the gate and when they hit the wire. And some say that Swiss Skydiver ran faster than Secretariat that day.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
That's crazy.
But, yeah, it's a YouTube video. I'm not sure who put it together, but the gates open simultaneously, and they showing them hitting the wire. And from what I could tell, her nose was in front. So
that's pretty
this
cool.
is the kind of stuff that horse trainers dream about, is to get a horse that good.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. All right. So, Kenny, I've always wondered this. What does the travel look like for a horse when you're going in between these tracks and these races?
Well, back to Swiss Skydiver, this filly had more frequent flyer miles than most executives do.
So you'd fly them?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In her case, well, they truck and they fly.
Right.
It just depends on the logistics and the timing and what's going where. But it's not unusual for us to FedEx a horse, UPS a horse.
How do you UPS a horse? You got to explain to me what that looks like.
Well, what they do, they have compartments that will hold 3 horses. It's basically a pod.
Okay.
And you can put 3 horses in the pod, and they lift it, slide it into the plane goes. You have to have special ramps for these horses. You have to have special grooms, that what they call flying grooms.
Right.
It's not cheap, but it's not unusual for us to send horses to, well, let's see. I've got a filly leaving Brazil maybe in the next 48 hours.
Okay.
She's a champion 3-year-old filly down there that she's coming to us to race, and she'll go from Brazil. Well, she's going to go from, I believe she's flying out of Sao Paulo into Miami. She'll quarantine 7 days in Miami. Then we pick her up in quarantine. She goes to my farm, Silverleaf Hills in Florida, and then subsequently to Kentucky and possibly New York. The trips to Dubai, we've done that many times.
Right.
East-West, California, New York, normal trip. Some of the other tracks don't have the equipment to be able to fly horses into, but horsemen, especially top horses, fly regularly. Wayne Lucas they used to call it Wayne off the plane. He'd fly a horse in, beat you, fly back out.
That's hilarious. And the horses, I guess, they take okay to flights and trucking, and they're okay with this? It doesn't affect them?
I don't know about you, but I'm a window sleeper on a plane.
I am too.
I go to sleep on a plane. Horses are similar. When the plane takes off, they want terra firma. They want firm ground. And when the plane takes off, they literally will glue their feet to the floor. They want stability.
Okay.
So when the plane goes up, they're not going to move. They're like in stone when they go in the air.
Got it.
Once the plane settles off and levels out, they're a little bit better, but they really travel quite well. So an interesting one that some people might not realize, most of the shipping companies have the right to euthanize a horse if it threatens the plane.
Wow.
If the horse is uncontrollable and they can use, I've never known it to ever to happen, but if a horse is bad enough, they have the right to euthanize the horse.
Whew, that's a tough risk to take there, especially when it's a big time horse.
Yeah, well, but like I said, horses typically don't give a problem. They sleep too. I've flown east-west. Company called Texas Sutton historically has handled that, and you see them drop their head. They get a little hay. As long as they got water, they sleep. When they hit the ground, the landing is more difficult than anything. But when the landing's over with, no problem.
Pretty awesome. Okay, so Kenny, a filly hasn't won the Travers since 1915. A horse named Lady Rotha won. How are you feeling about this? Do you feel like she's got a chance? Or you wouldn't put her there, right?
It's not been attempted but a couple of times in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
So I think that the likelihood that nobody's tried it. The Alabama is a race that sits in front of the Travers by a week historically, and the Alabama normally has the top fillies in it. We're going to open the door for another filly to run and win the Alabama because that race is basically ours to take if we want it.
Sure.
And why Philly hasn't run back in the Travers is curious to me, but I think that the situation here maybe brings it to the forefront because she's so dominant over her division. I think she's already going to be named champion 3-year-old filly, even if she doesn't run against fillies the rest of the year. But I really think that horse racing in general, we need uplifted. We need let's give them something to talk about. Let's have some fun with this. I want to see a crowd of pink that day for anybody that's pulling for her.
So wear pink.
I would love to see pink hats and pink shirts and pink dresses and pink sport coats for people that are rooting for her to win and for her to run.
That's pretty cool.
I think it will be cool. And I think NYRA or New York Racing up here, the New York Racing Association, for those that don't know, NYRA, I think the New York Racing Association is really excited to know that they're going to get a chance to promote this, and DraftKings is going to sponsor it. So DraftKings is interested in promoting it, and it's a chance for us to kind of show off that can she beat them? Can she beat the boys? So I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Pretty cool, man. Listen, horse racing needs stars. And she's obviously a star. This would take it to a whole nother level. Well,
and let me tell you a little bit. You have to think 2 or 3 steps ahead in this business, and I try to. So let's say she wins the Travers. Okay, that'd be wonderful, and there'll be a lot of publicity about it, and there'll be discussion, and it'd be a cool thing if she wins. But let's say she gets beat. Okay. For one, we would always hope that she comes back okay and that she's no worse for wear and that she's all right.
Of course.
there's a $1 million race a month later called the Cotillion.
Yep.
And this would have been her path anyway. She typically would have gone Alabama to Cotillion. The Cotillion is a very important grade one also. And so if she loses to Travers and she comes out of it 100%, we can come back in 4 weeks and run in the Cotillion for $1 million. And then we probably go Breeders' Cup Distaff by the end of the season for the Breeders' Cup. Or we give her a shot on the turf in another race called the QE2 at Keeneland, which would give her another dynamic in the long run as far as her value as a broodmare and as a producer, that she could prove herself on the grass as well. I think she'd win over anything myself, but these are the kind of things that horse trainers think about, and we're trying to kind of plot a plan and have a plan B and a plan C.
That's fascinating. So if you can show that she is really good on the turf as well, that makes her more valuable as a broodmare?
Well, the people that would be interested in her as a broodmare, or let's just say her progeny, her foals, would be more interested in her internationally.
Got it.
They race on the grass primarily in Britain.
Got it.
Ireland, France. In Japan, the Japanese would be very interested. Matter of fact, the Japanese own Swiss Skydiver today. I don't think the Japanese are overly concerned whether she is a turf horse or a dirt horse. They're interested in her already just because she's such a good horse.
Right.
But they own Eskimo Kisses, who I won the Alabama with. This is Katsumi Yoshida, which is Northern Farm. They own Swiss Skydiver, Eskimo Kisses, Alabama winner, Simply Ravishing, Alcibiades winner, Kusora, who was a champion in Argentina, is a filly that I handled. And they also own Defining Purpose, which is a filly that I won a grade one with at Keeneland, the Ashland. So they have 5 fillies that I handled that are already in Japan. And they come over here and they acquire our best stock all the time. But you have to have competition for them to bid on. And when you do that, the more people and the more in the market for a filly like this or her foals, the better off, the better sale price you get. So that's the business of it all.
Got it. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, but I think the QE2 would probably be a question mark, but we'll see. I mean, it's another option, and certainly I keep all my options open typically.
So we mentioned him earlier, Kenny, but what's next for Mystic Dan?
So we don't think that he liked the track here that well when he ran in the Belmont.
Okay.
The Saratoga surface, Brian Hernandez came back, and the first thing he says is, Kenny, he just seemed like he was spinning his wheels out there, that he didn't know if the track had changed or if it was too heavy or what the deal was, but he said he just didn't feel like he liked it. And okay, so that was fine. We get him back. We did a full exam on him. We felt like he was okay. I decided we're going to give him 30 days. He had been training hard. He's really rewarded us. He's been a horse that was just been special from the beginning. But all of us need a break at some point, and I decided to give him 30 days. And then after the 30 days, we put some tack on him. We still weren't real happy with the way that he hadn't filled out quite enough, and we thought he needed a little bit more time. I had Dr. Bramlage and Dr. Bo Landry look at him. They both said, Bo Landry said, look, he's fine, Kenny. Maybe he's a little bit stiff in his back. Dr. Bramlage said, you really want to do the best for him. Give him 30 more days and possibly 60 more. And we decided to give him more. He's a horse that deserves it. And
sure.
Right now, at this point, he's at about 6 weeks. And I think another 4 to 6 weeks, I think he's ready to come back and get some tack back on, and we'll look for a plan to take him into next year.
I love it. All right, Kenny, last question here, and we'll wrap up this podcast. What kind of odds do you think Torpedo Anna is going to have in the Travers?
I think she'll be the favorite. I think that.
Do you really?
She probably, because a lot of people are going to wager on her just because. And that doesn't mean that she's smart money. I think she will be overbet. And as a gambling proposition, I don't think that that's the wager that you should make, because there'll be a lot of people that'll be playing her out of novelty. They might want to even have what I'd call, saving tickets, where you bet on the horse and you save the ticket as a memento. There are people that do that. But I do think that, we're going to have to beat Sierra Leone, very good horse.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have to beat Fierceness, very good horse. We're going to have to beat Dornack, very good horse.
Sure.
She beats those 3 horses right there. She's really accomplished something.
Oh, yeah. Beats any of them.
Yeah, so she's got her work cut out for her. It's not going to be any stroll in the park. It's going to ask her to be as good as she's ever been. And honestly, I'm a little nervous about it.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, I could take the easy road. I'm sure I could take the easy road and just, go ahead and, gallop around there in the Alabama. But I think she deserves a shot. If she wins this race, you could make a case she could be horse of the year.
Sure.
And if she doesn't, then we regroup and we go to the cotillion. And we're still likely champion 3-year-old filly.
Let's go. Let's get it. Good luck. Kenny, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Hope you guys have enjoyed our first 2 podcasts. We will be back with you for podcast number 3 with another engaging topic. Hey, Kenny, what do we say? See you at the races, right?
See you at the races.